The Uncommon Expose, where I'm changing your life by sharing someone else's. Will you help me change someone's life by hitting subscribe? Trigger warning, this episode discusses eating disorders, OCD, mental health, and spirituality. If you think you'll find any of these things triggering, please do not listen. Hello, welcome to the Uncommon Expose. Thank you so much for sharing your story and being willing to share your story with me, because what you're going to be talking about today is going to be so impactful.
I hope so.
There are just, you lived it, but there are so many young women who are struggling with what you've gone through. So welcome. Thank you. I'll get you to introduce yourself and then we'll crack on.
Yes. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me and inviting me.
Thank you.
My name is Lilli. And I feel like that's kind of, introducing myself, like I'm a hypnotherapist and everything. But my story is about my experience with an eating disorder. Yeah, having anorexia as a teenager, but I suppose there's a lot more to it than that, which I'm keen to get into and talk about with you.
Amazing. I love that. Thank you. All right, let's start from the beginning.
Yeah. So I feel like it's the eating disorder, but that almost for me is like not really the story or the big thing. It is and it isn't. The eating disorder started when I was a teenager, but actually really I feel like it started so much younger. Yeah. As most of these things do. Yeah. A therapist told me when I was going through it, an eating disorder is never really an eating disorder. It's never just an eating disorder. Yeah. It's so much more. And for me, that is absolutely the case. So I suppose my story actually starts a lot younger. And I always, I suppose, felt like growing up, even as young as sort of, I think Mum said it maybe started when I was sort of like 5 years old kind of thing. I had all these like rituals and habits that I had to do. Okay. And so I would have to, say before I went to bed, I'd have to check under the bed like 5 or 6 times. It was like a number. Yeah. Until I would feel okay to go to bed. Yeah. I would have to shut all the drawers in the kitchen and make sure everything was shut. And Mum always finds it hilarious because she would be like unpacking the dishwasher. Yeah. And I'd be like right behind her as soon as she put something in, like closing the door. She's like, I need to put more things in there. Like, stop. Yeah.
But that's so like kids helping, right?
Yeah. But I would just I would have to do all these things. Yeah. Or I would have to, if we'd be walking, somewhere, I would have to, touch a railing a certain amount of times. And it just sort of became this funny thing in our household of like Lily's habits. Yeah, okay. And I just had all these things that I had to do, and it kind of followed me all the way until probably I started high school. Would just have all these things that I had to do. And like I said, the thing in the family was like, oh, these are just these funny little things. Yeah. And it was kind of a joke about it because we didn't know like what they were.
If you couldn't complete them, you couldn't check under the bed 6 times, only twice. Yeah. Would that send you into a spiral? Or?
Yeah, it would be very distressing. Yeah. Okay. But I never didn't get to do that. You know what I mean? I would always do it. Yeah. And I think the thing that I definitely didn't tell my family was like exactly that. If I don't do this thing, the story that was in my head was like, all my family are going to die. Oh, wow. Or if I don't complete this thing, something really bad is going to happen. Yeah. So they kind of just saw the habits. Yeah. And the funny little habits, but they didn't know the thought process behind it. Yeah. Because I just felt like I was the weirdest person
Yeah.
in the whole world. Like there was something wrong with me, and I can only tell this funny little bit of it because the rest would be too embarrassing.
Yeah.
Like too shameful.
Yeah.
So I just kind of lived my life like that. I would just, even at school, you know, I would have to do certain things and it would be so embarrassing in front of my peers, and I would have to like, ask, you know, the teacher something, you know, a certain amount of times, or like every day I had to go to the bathroom at the same time, and I had to do all these little things that like kids, I think, slowly started to pick up on. And whenever they would like point it out to me, I would be like mortified. Yeah. But didn't matter. Like I had to do these things. So it just kind of like over time just sort of was a part of me. And then it kind of wavered a little bit. It sort of started to get, I suppose, less hectic and intrusive as I got older.
Yeah. And no teachers said anything to you, obviously your parents?
No. I feel like I was pretty sneaky with it.
Okay.
Like kids started to pick up on, like I know my friends started to pick up on things. Like after lunch, I remember I would have to ask every single day one of my friends if I had something in my teeth. Yeah. I would have to ask every day.
Yeah.
And they slowly started to pick up on it. They'd be like, no, Lily, you don't have anything in your teeth. Yeah. And I was like mortified, but I had to ask.
Yeah.
If you guys can hear anything in the background, it's my dog walking around.
Yeah. Toenails, tap, tap.
Yeah, tap, tap, tap.
Tap, tap.
But yeah, I would have to ask these things. And then, as time went on, that sort of started to lessen a little bit as I became more aware of like body, I suppose. And so all that fixation on sort of controlling the world around me through my rituals and things that I would have to do, that sense of control that I suppose now I know made me feel safe, got turned into my body.
Right.
So probably the eating disorder, I think, started when I was maybe like 15 or 16.
Yeah.
It didn't ramp up to the extreme that it did until I was about 17 or 18.
Yeah.
But looking back, I know that hyper focus and that control started around 15, 16 when I just started to like understand that, you know, a body can be controlled through exercise.
Yeah.
And a body can be controlled, you know, through food and restriction. And you start to sort of understand that you get positive responses from that too.
Yeah, like people commenting on your body. Oh, you look really good.
Yeah.
You look really thin.
Yep, definitely. So it's kind of this double whammy of like, there's this control aspect that makes me feel really safe.
Yeah.
And has really nothing to do with body or image or anything like that. It's purely just like a control thing.
Yeah.
But it gets reinforced by society.
Yeah.
And, you know, of course, social media and things that just like make you feel that the way in which you're controlling your body and you using that to feel safe is also a really good thing, and you should keep doing it because everyone else around you thinks that that's a really good thing. Not my family, like not at all, but my peers. And, you know, of course you start to realize that your body is something that's going to be critiqued, and maybe that's the reason that you do or don't get attention from those around you. Like social media really started to pick up when I was about 15, 16, I think. That's when we started like posting on Instagram and things like that.
Yeah, okay.
So you start to sort of realize, wow, this coping skill that I have is like heavily reinforced by society.
Yeah.
This is a good thing.
Yeah.
And so it kind of just sort of, I was kind of under the surface for a bit. I feel like I was like just coasting along with this sort of disordered eating.
What were you doing as disordered eating? Like skipping meals or?
I would actually say as soon as I said that, I kind of actually realized it was more exercise at that point.
Okay.
Because, you know, with you're living with your parents in school, mum's feeding me.
Yeah.
You know, I can't have too much control in that sense.
Yeah.
Probably, you know, when I was at school, I would probably be restricting a little bit.
Yeah.
And probably said, you know, no to certain meals. So mum kind of like, okay, I've got to like cook this whatever for Lilli.
Yeah.
But it was less the eating at that point because I was under like my family, you know, my family's rules essentially of, you know, you've got to eat dinner, you've got to fuel yourself.
Yeah.
So I think it was more the addiction to exercise. Like every day when I came home, I would have to go for a run.
Yeah. And how far along were you running?
Not crazy, to be honest. Maybe like half an hour run or something.
Okay, yeah.
But it was every day. I'd have to do it. And then I actually got pretty sick with anemia. Yeah. So then
low iron.
Yeah. I remember finding out that I had anemia because I lost a bunch of weight.
Yeah.
And mum was really concerned finding out that I was anemic. And I remember mum was like, I think she was very worried at that point. So then like I remember I got banned from exercise. I wasn't allowed to, but I hope mum's not listening. Actually, it doesn't matter. No. If she wasn't home, I would like come home, quickly go for a run.
Oh, wow.
Put my clothes back away and then like it had never happened kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yes.
So sneaky.
So sneaky. Yeah, sneaky with it because there was, you know, there's the aspect of the eating disorder, I suppose, or like the body image issues, but there's also the aspect of what I now know is OCD of like, I have to do this run when I get home.
Yeah.
Otherwise the world doesn't feel okay.
Yeah.
So there was multiple sort of layers to it.
Yeah. When you couldn't run, did you then have to put that fixation onto something else? Or would you just be so fixated on the fact that you couldn't run?
Yeah, I'd feel like overwhelming senses of like guilt.
Yeah. And
it would just feel like really the only way I can explain it is like so uncomfortable in my body. Like something was wrong.
Yeah.
It's the same feeling as I would get when I wasn't like able to, you know, do a ritual or whatever, or was the feeling of I need to do this ritual. It's like that feeling of like it's the world is just not right and something's not right within my body. So it's like really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got banned from exercise, and then I would say it kind of just coasted along. I think at the time mum put me in therapy. Mum, dad put me in therapy. I think I saw maybe a couple different therapists in school.
Yeah.
Because, of course, there comes, you know, a lot of anxiety with all these things too.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think they were helpful. You know, I didn't cure it, but was maybe helpful.
Yeah.
And then, so after school, I went to college, as was kind of just like the thing that you do.
Yeah.
Especially like in our school, you know, private school, you go to college, you go to university, that's what you do. But I never knew what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Ever. I always knew that I wanted to help people. I had this like overwhelming sense my whole life I wanted to help people. My mum always told me like, you're going to do big things, you're going to do amazing things, which is so nice. And like it always gave me such a big drive.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure.
But I think there's that sort of pressure there of like, oh my God, I have to do this great thing. But I don't know what I want to do.
Yeah. Like, and if I settle for something else and I'm not great, then I failed.
Then I've failed this like big mission that I have. And I think, there's sort of like really positives to that, and then, that pressure. So I didn't know what I wanted to do at all. And I'd sort of, by the time I got into university and I just picked, I think I did I started with business maybe, and then I eventually got into psychology for a bit. And the eating disorder and the exercise was kind of at bay for a bit because you're in college, you're having fun.
Yeah.
It was actually a pretty good environment for me that first year.
Yeah.
I got a boyfriend who loved me. And so I just kind of felt like, oh, I'm having fun. No one's really focusing on what they want to do. We're all just having fun.
Yeah.
There's no real pressure on me right now.
Yeah.
I can just have fun and be free.
Yeah.
And I felt that. That first year, I felt so good and so happy. And then towards the end of that year, I was feeling like I didn't want to be in that relationship anymore. And as I started to not want to be in that relationship anymore, I think I sort of maybe started to get this real fear of uncertainty. Of, I don't know what I want to do. I don't want to be with this guy anymore. He loves me. We could have this really good future. I don't want it. And I think everything started to feel like I'm losing control. I'm losing my grasp on my future. And, I had some good friends in college, but, not really. I had a couple good friends. Everyone's loving partying and doing all this stuff. I don't really want to. I also put on a bit of weight that first year, which is very normal. But then you have your big break from the first year to the second year. And I started to notice that. And I wasn't interested in my partner anymore. And then I started focusing on my body. So I remember that break in between the first year and the second year, I lost a lot of weight. And was really, it started off actually quite, I would say, healthy. I discovered exercise again, and this is good. And then everything sort of just spiraled from there, I would say. Came back. Everyone was commenting, oh, my God, you look so good. You've lost so much weight. It wasn't so much weight. I've never, obviously I'm quite just a petite, lean girl naturally. But, everyone was like, you've lost so much weight and you look amazing. And, oh, my God. And I was getting all this, attention. I think at the start of this year, broke up with my boyfriend. Or that start of that year, broke up with my boyfriend. And then, getting all this attention. Everyone's like, oh my God, you look amazing. And then it just from there, my year of hell. It spiraled so completely out of control. I barely ate. I was exercising every single morning. I lost a lot of friends because I guess they could see she's in trouble. You're also really young. You don't know how to help. I think for a while I felt a little bit resentful of them for not sort of wanting to help. But now I look back, I'm like, oh my God, they were 19. Of course they're not going to want to help. Or know how to help. So they're just Lil's weird now. She doesn't want to have fun with us anymore. She doesn't want to drink. She doesn't want to party. She doesn't want to go out to lunch with us and eat food. It makes sense that I lost a lot of friends. And then I remember one night I got so drunk and had lost so much weight, was really struggling, got so drunk. My sister had to come pick me up. And then she called my mum, and my mum came racing down the next day and was like, no. Something is, this is not okay. I remember we had a big conversation in the car. I was like, shit, I've been found out. Everyone can see I'm really struggling.
Did you know that you were struggling? At that time? At the time you knew you were spiraling and it was too much?
Yeah, at the time. I knew. I think when Mum came down, that was a big wake-up call of oh, this is really fucked. But
you knew it was already
I knew it was, I knew it was semi. And then, then from there I got into mum and dad were really worried and really stressed, and I would have to, they would be like on me so hard about everything, but I just couldn't, I couldn't get out of it. Yeah. I honestly felt like I couldn't get out of it. It was I remember saying to mum, you don't get it, this is on my mind every second of every day.
Yeah.
My body, food and exercise, there's not a second of my day that I'm not thinking about it. Yeah. And I remember that being so true. It sounds almost like hyperbole or dramatic. How could you be thinking about that every second? I was thinking about it every second of every day.
Yeah.
And it was so consuming. I was still going to uni, somehow still passing courses. I have no idea how I did that. And it just got really, really bad. And I remember we went over to see, my brother was living in London at the time, and I hadn't seen him for a while. And we went over and visited him as a family. And I remember he was very taken aback by obviously how I looked. I looked shocking. And I dropped out of uni from there because I just couldn't.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it anymore. I didn't want to. And yeah, I was really, really struggling.
Yeah.
And at that time, mum and dad had put me into hypnotherapy. And just slowly over time, that next year,
yeah.
I was really into that. That opened my eyes up a lot to just sort of how I felt about myself.
Yeah.
And how I felt about the world around me.
Yeah.
And that sense of control. So I suppose with the eating disorder, it slowly started to get better through that. And it really, really worked for me, and over time got me to a point where I felt like I had a little bit more of a handle on it.
Yeah.
Which was amazing. But then kind of what brings it to, I suppose, the real understanding of what was going on for me was as I started to get a little bit better with my eating disorder, because obviously I'd lost my period for a year or whatever. But as I started to get a bit better with it, I suppose I was putting on weight. I think eventually maybe after another year, I got my period back. And it was almost like I went through a second puberty.
Yeah. And
my skin was at the time I thought it was the worst thing in the world. Probably looking back, it was, I had acne.
Yeah.
But that hyper focus that that was on my body, got lifted and went to my face.
Yeah.
And it was that every second of everyday thoughts about my body and exercise and food all turned to my face.
Yeah.
And I couldn't leave the house. Would never leave the house. It was this another layer of all of this, where I began to realize, well, actually I didn't at the time, but my mum began to realize, this is all the same thing. Yeah. It's manifesting in these different ways. It was the eating disorder and it was your body. Now it's your face. And then she, I think, began to remember all of these rituals and these things that I would have to do when I was younger, that I would be hyper-focused on. And I think she had this moment when she was like, I think you have OCD.
Yeah.
And for me, when she said that, I remember thinking, well, no, I'm not very organized, at all. I don't need to clean things. I don't need to have, everything a certain way or whatever. I don't think so. And then I started doing research about OCD.
Yeah.
And my mind was blown.
Yeah, wow.
100% that's what I had.
Yeah.
And But I suppose the misconceptions about what OCD are stopped any of us from ever realizing at any point that maybe that's what I had.
Yeah.
Because I think you think of someone with OCD and you think of someone who like can't step on a crack or whatever, or they...
I almost imagine like
think?
aggressive,
Yeah.
or if they can't complete it. I know that you said that you would spiral, but you internalize that.
Yes.
Whereas if I imagine someone with OCD, they can't complete it, then they project that outwards.
Yeah, right.
So that's what I would like, no, I have to.
Yes.
Whereas your one seemed to...
I definitely internalized for sure, because I think I felt so much shame around it of like, there's something really badly wrong with me.
Yeah.
And, you know, a big aspect of OCD as well is like intrusive thoughts.
Yeah, wow.
So, you know, I'd have so many intrusive thoughts in my mind all the time, but never, like, I just thought I was like a really bad person, or like had these like really awful thoughts about myself and other people in the world. And this is something to be really ashamed of because I don't know anybody else who has this.
Yeah.
So, like, I slowly began to realize, oh my gosh, this was never just an eating disorder.
Yeah.
This isn't about my skin. It's not about my appearance. It's, I need to have everything a certain way in order to feel safe.
Yeah.
And it manifested in body image and eating and exercise because, well, that's kind of reinforced with the world that we live in.
Yeah.
So that's something that I can really hyper focus on to make myself feel safe.
Yeah.
And once I began to do work around that specifically, that is when things really began to change for me. Yeah. I also started taking medication for it.
For OCD?
Yeah. That really helped me as well. Yeah. So it was like hypnotherapy and the medication combined, unpacking it, understanding, you know, all of these bits about me and kind of recreating a sense of safety within myself.
Yeah.
That's when things really began to shift for me through that understanding of you don't just have an eating disorder. You don't actually care all that much about what you look like, and you don't care about being thin. You don't really even care about having the smoothest, cleanest face or whatever.
Yeah.
It's that if you control these things, you're going to feel a bit safer and a bit more in control of the world.
Yeah.
And also, you know, at that time, I didn't know what I wanted to do with a job. I didn't know what this future looked like for me.
Yeah.
So that became an understanding for me as well of like, well, you feel uncertain about this. And so if you can just get certainty through how you appear to the world, that will make everything better.
Is a big part of OCD control?
Absolutely. Yeah. Control and safety.
Okay.
Yeah. And it can come about like a few different ways. Sometimes you're just born with OCD, which I think I was.
Yeah.
Through genetics.
Yeah.
But then sometimes trauma can bring it on.
Yeah.
As a way to sort of control your world and safety.
Yeah.
You know, if something really scary or uncertain happens, you cope by bringing in this sense of safety through all these little rituals and stuff. Sometimes like big abrupt life changes can bring it on. I didn't have any of that growing up. And from what, you know, my parents say, we did do this big move to Hong Kong for a year when we were younger. But from what my parents say, it started quite earlier than that. Yeah. So I don't think that had much to do with it. I think I was just born with it.
Yeah.
And it's something that now that I know what it is and how it shows up, and more specifically like what it's trying to do and how it's trying to help me.
Yeah.
That changed everything for me.
Yeah.
Because so often, like with things like OCD or anxiety or, you know, eating disorders or whatever it is, you can feel like these are like the worst parts of you and that there's something wrong with you. And almost like the thoughts that come up are like out to get you, this like really bad thing about you, like, you know, kind of like the devil on your shoulder, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But what I began to realize actually is like this OCD, these thoughts, these intrusive thoughts and things that come up and say, hey, you need to touch that a certain amount of times or whatever, they're actually coming up with like the purest of intentions possible, which is to protect me and keep me safe.
Yeah.
And like when you think of it like that, same with anxiety, it's like, oh my God, this is like such a beautiful part of me that has the most beautiful intentions of protection.
Yeah.
I just need to learn to like train it a little bit, but also, give myself a sense of safety in my life and in my body and my mind.
Yeah.
And that's how I take care of myself, but also how I view the OCD, how I view, any intrusive thoughts that come up, how I view them of like, oh, you're just trying to protect me. You're just trying to keep me safe. Thanks. You're not helping me.
Yeah.
But
you're not.
You're not.
Yeah.
You're really not.
Yeah.
But that intention is really nice and hey, I'm going to do this instead.
Yeah. And is that like self-talk?
Yeah, absolutely.
And does that just stop? Like the feelings?
Yeah.
The drive to touch the door?
So over time, like what they've kind of like studied about OCD is that there's, so often with things we try and really work on the feelings and beliefs and the thoughts before we work on like the behavior.
Okay.
But with OCD, they say like change the thoughts, change the behavior first.
Yeah.
And that changes the thoughts.
Yeah.
So a big therapy for OCD is exposure and response therapy.
Yeah.
Which basically is, say you have like a level of compulsions that you have to do. Say you have to like check the straightener before you leave. You have to lock the door this amount of times and whatever. You'll put them on a hierarchy of like, what's the thing that is you absolutely have to do versus something that maybe is a little bit easier to stop doing.
Yeah.
And so in therapy, they'll have you stop doing the behavior.
Yeah.
And it'll be really uncomfortable and like feel really awful. But over time, it becomes easier and easier and easier.
Yeah.
And the thoughts kind of dissipate. But I always say it's kind of like, especially with OCD, probably the thoughts will always be there.
Yeah.
And that, I think, the thing that determines whether or not they affect you is the meaning that you attach to them.
Yeah, okay.
So, you say you have a thought. If you attach the meaning of, say it's an intrusive thought, you have the thought and then you attach the meaning of, oh my God, that makes me a really bad person.
Yeah.
I need to think and think and think about this until, I feel right with the world again. You kind of go in this loop.
Yeah.
But if you have the thought and you just attach the meaning to it of, that's just an intrusive thought that's trying to keep me safe.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean anything about me. You can kind of move forward.
Yeah.
So it's the meaning that you attach to all these things.
Yeah.
But that is you. That comes to you keeping yourself accountable.
Yeah.
And actually doing those things.
Yeah.
And actually pulling yourself up on them and being aware of the thoughts that are trying to like get you into that loop, because it's almost like if you can be in that loop, you can solve the problem of whether or not you're a bad person or whether or not this means anything about you.
Yeah.
So it's you try to solve the problem.
Yeah.
And a lot of thoughts that come with intrusive thoughts that come with OCD is they're called ego dystonic thoughts. So basically they are thoughts that are so not you.
Yeah, okay.
Right. So like sometimes thoughts with OCD will be so relationship OCD is a really big one. So you'll go out or something on a night out and you'll come home and the intrusive thoughts will be you cheated on your partner.
Yeah.
Or
But you haven't.
You haven't.
Yeah, okay.
Or you wanted to cheat on your partner night. You thought that person over there was cute. You want to cheat on him.
Yeah.
You're a really bad person.
Yeah.
And it's like you need to go in the loop of that thought.
Yeah.
To make sure 100% that that's not true.
Yeah.
So you go in it and you try and solve the problem.
Yeah.
But it's because you would never, ever do that specific thought comes up. A lot of people, you know, when they start to have children, they have these thoughts of, what if I just hurt my kid?
Yeah.
What if I just did that?
Yeah.
Because the emotional attachment is like so strong and you love this thing so much that you need, like the OCD needs to make you so sure.
Yeah.
By trying to convince you that you would do that.
Yeah.
But it needs to make so sure that you would
rationalise
never,
it.
ever do that.
Yeah.
That you go into this thought spiral.
Yeah.
But the kind of work comes from, okay, I had that thought. That's an OCD thought trying to keep my world safe.
Yeah.
I'm not attaching that meaning that's going to go and take me into the loop.
Yeah.
I can just name it for what it is and understand it. And that's why like understanding and awareness about OCD is so important, and why the misconceptions and the stigmas around OCD are so unhelpful.
Yeah.
Because they present OCD as this thing of, you know, people always say, I'm so OCD. It's
yeah.
like, no, you're not.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you begin to believe, oh, that's what OCD is.
Yeah.
These intrusive thoughts that I have, these rituals that I have, they're just this fucked up thing about me.
Yeah.
That I should never and can never tell anybody about.
Yeah.
Because they're really embarrassing and they're a shameful thing and they mean you're a bad person.
Yeah.
That's why the stigmas are so like important to talk about.
Yeah.
Because OCD, like the sort of cleanliness and keeping things organized, that's like one subtype of OCD.
Yeah.
There's so many.
Yeah.
There's so many, but at the end of the day, they all come back to this idea of safety and control.
Yeah.
And just trying to make yourself feel safe, because either you were born with this, or at one stage in your life or multiple stages in your life, you didn't feel safe. And so you need to create this sense of safety.
Yeah.
And it's like a beautiful thing. I think like it's I don't think it's toxic positivity to say like I think anxiety and OCD are really beautiful things.
Yeah.
They need to be, you know, managed and understood.
Yeah.
But at the core and the heart of them, they're very beautiful things that are just trying to like help us.
Yeah.
You know? And the biggest thing, I guess, in my story is like understanding all of this.
Yeah.
And learning to rewire it and begin to make changes from the understanding of what's going on for me is the biggest thing that's changed my life, is purely understanding it. Because when I was in the middle of my eating disorder, I thought I was just like this really like horribly vain person that just cared about being skinny.
Yeah.
And just cared about how I looked. And, you know, when my skin was breaking out, I just was like the most vain person ever because I cared so much about this.
Yeah.
Whereas in reality, I was just feeling like I needed to bring this sense of certainty into my life, because at that stage, everything felt uncertain. What am I doing with my life?
Yeah.
You know, I've dropped out of uni. I'm living with my parents. What am I doing?
Yeah.
Well, that's too hard to think about. And I don't know it. So I just put all this focus onto my body and then, you know, I'll feel safe.
Yeah.
And it, you know, distracted me so that I didn't have to focus on that stuff. And almost I could stay in this place of being unwell so that I didn't have to.
Yeah.
You know, everything that we go through has a purpose. Everything that we go through has a very specific intention behind it in terms of like mental health.
Yeah.
It's you know, it's doing something for us.
Yeah.
And, you know, the overarching thing is trying to keep you safe, but the meanings behind that is different for everybody. And the way that it goes about that is different for everybody. Which is, you know, I always say it's like so important for you to specifically understand what's going on for you.
Yeah.
And when you begin to understand that, you notice it showing up in your world, and you're, instead of feeling like it's this big monster, this big horrible thing, it's just like, oh, that's just that.
Yeah.
And everything kind of begins to sort of shift from there. That's what I found.
Yeah.
Mm.
If something, so you would say now that you're like kind of on top of your OCD and obviously the eating disorder, if something negative comes up, would that trigger a spiral? And I'm going to use the term relapse for want of a better word.
Yeah.
Would that trigger something within you?
Yeah. So I noticed that I really got on top of the OCD and everything was feeling really good. And then a few years ago, my relationship became a little bit uncertain.
Yeah.
We were going through some stuff. It became a bit uncertain. And I noticed that the OCD tendencies really sprung up again, and my need for certainty and safety.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that was a big reminder for me of, I really need to be on top of this much more.
Yeah.
So I definitely noticed it come up then.
Yeah.
Now I think I'm very aware of it.
Yeah.
So if, things are going on that are hard, and maybe I'll have a response internally of feeling quite anxious.
Yeah.
I know what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just able to kind of I know it.
Yeah.
It's not this big, scary stranger thing. It's like an old friend. I'm like, I know what you're doing.
Back.
Yeah, you're back. Yeah. I know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And the understanding of it just kind of calms me.
Yeah.
Or I feel like I can talk about it with people.
Yeah.
I can talk about it with, particularly my mum, because I can say I'm feeling all these things.
Yeah.
And, her and I both know what that is now.
Yeah.
And I don't feel ashamed to talk about it because I know it's not this big horrible thing that's wrong with me. I know it's just this OCD that's a part of me.
Yeah.
We both know what it is, and so we can talk about it openly.
Yeah.
As opposed to, I think when I was younger, I felt so ashamed that I'm never talking about this.
Yeah.
I'm just going to act out and, focus all that energy on my body and everything, because that feels safer than talking about how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
Or I'm really scared about this. I just talk about things, and I think that's probably been one of the most beautiful things within my family about me going through that time is there is no one in my family that I can't talk to about everything.
Yeah.
I have a brother, I have a sister, mum and dad. I talk about everything with them.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that's ever off limits. And I feel like it's almost created that of we can all talk about things like that now.
Yeah.
And it's not something that is shameful or anything. It's okay to speak about all these things.
And I think it's really beautiful to highlight that you've come from a family, a good upbringing, a healthy upbringing, healthy relationship with your parents and your siblings, and a healthy dynamic.
Yeah.
And still you've had some hardships.
Yes.
Just because you had a good upbringing doesn't mean that you can't go through these things, and vice versa. Just because you had a shitty upbringing.
Yeah.
They're not always tied together.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. My relationship with my family is probably one of the things that I'm most proud of in my whole life.
Yeah. Because
they are so supportive and just so incredible. And that kind of now extends to, their partners and my partner too. We're all kind of this unit where we can talk about anything. I could talk to my brother-in-law about something that's really whatever. And I know him and I riff a lot and yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But I know I could go to him about anything and it'd be okay.
Yeah.
So we've created, I think, this dynamic of just openness and sharing.
Yeah.
That is so nice.
Healthy.
And yeah. And then I know 100% will extend to our kids. And I think that's a really beautiful thing to, not that it specifically came out of this, because I think we were always very open, but that has highlighted of, hey, we can go through really hard things.
Yeah.
And, we can get through it together. And, I think it was very traumatic for my parents.
Yeah.
I can only imagine going through that, and, I think they probably have a bit of PTSD from it, because they were so worried about me so worried. And, you know, for years, it's just so natural. But like for years, if I would be like, because now I run, I exercise, I, you know, eat what I want, don't eat what I don't want. Like I can truly say I have nothing of the sort of eating disorder at all.
Yeah.
But if I'm like, you know, if I say no to something, Mum will be like, why?
Yeah.
Oh,
that's probably frustrating at the time, but very sweet.
It's very sweet, yes.
Yeah.
And like, I think, girl, you don't have the right to be frustrated. You put them through that, she can ask you why not eating that.
Good on you. Good on you. That's so like self-aware.
Oh, I completely get it. I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
It's obviously like doesn't happen anymore really, but yeah, they went through hell.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine like the sleepless nights and worrying, whereas of course when you're younger you're just in your head and you're like, I'm the only one that's going through this.
Yeah.
No one else is, just me.
Yeah.
And you feel very like selfish in that sense because, you know, teenagers are inherently selfish anyway.
Yeah, the brain isn't developed.
Yeah, and not developed.
Yeah.
So I'm like, why are you guys worried? Like, I'm the one's going through this.
Yeah.
But now I look back and I'm like, oh my God, you know, all the help, you know, that is there for people that are, you know, struggling with eating disorders in any way that there is. Yeah, there needs to be help for the parents as well and the families because they go through it so much as well.
Yeah.
And I just like hope to God I never have to go through that as a parent, but I feel more equipped, I think, you know, now. So, but yeah, they were amazing. I'm so lucky in that sense. And a lot of people aren't.
Yeah.
You know, I 100% would not have gotten through any of it without them. Also, them paying for my therapy.
Yeah.
You know, when you're a teenager, you're not paying for your therapy. Like, if you don't have parents that are in the position to do that, or you're a parent and you're not in the position to do that, that's, you know, that's a whole other level to it.
Yeah.
So
privilege.
Oh, absolutely.
And not in the like, oh, you're so privileged, but it is
no,
a privilege.
It's privilege.
It's privilege.
100% it's privilege. Being able to afford that stuff is privilege.
Yeah.
And, you know, being able to afford things that aren't just sort of like, you know, the just like government funded, like very specialized therapy.
Yeah.
That is so privileged. It's so lucky. Like without that, it'd be so difficult. So there's like, whilst it was so hard, it was very, I was in the best position to be able to overcome it.
Yeah.
That not everyone gets.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many layers to it.
Yeah.
Mm.
So now do you get those tendencies at all?
With,
So I know when people say like, if you had a stutter as a child, you've always got a stutter. So now.
Do you know that's something that people say about eating disorders?
Yeah.
Is that once you have an eating disorder, you'll always have it. I do not believe that.
Yeah.
I think if you work with the core of the eating disorder, the eating disorder is just like the symptom.
Yeah.
Right? It's not the problem.
Yeah.
So if you never deal with the problem, like the core of it, 100%, you'll always have elements of it.
Yeah.
But if you deal with the core of it and understand, like I began to understand, oh my God, this isn't about food, this isn't about whatever. This is like this sense that I need to control and I need safety. And, you know, I have OCD. Once I began to focus on that, the symptom of not focusing on that and not dealing with that isn't going to be there.
How do you give yourself safety now? Like, how does that show up?
So it shows up through, I think, a multitude of different ways. The biggest one is the understanding of it all. Yeah. Understanding, you know, what I went through and why. And so I don't have this feeling of uncertainty of, oh my God, there's just this really bad thing wrong with me and I don't know what's going on and whatever. Yeah. I also create safety, I think, through the acceptance of uncertainty. Okay. I think that is one of the biggest things is like one of our biggest fears as human beings is like uncertainty and not knowing. Yeah. And so working towards accepting, I'm never going to know. Yeah. The world and my life is kind of just unfolding. There's certain things I can do to create safety, but accepting the unknown, I think, is the biggest thing. But then, I have my meditation practice. I do I exercise and I move my body. I take care of my mental health in like a really conscious way.
Yeah.
If I'm ever feeling any type of way, I talk about it.
Yeah.
I talk about it with either my mum or my partner or my whole family. Talk about things. If I ever feel any type of way, I go and see someone who practices what I practice to deal with it. Like as soon as anything comes up for me, I'm not someone that's going to like sit with it ever. I'm like, I'm getting on top of this right now.
Yeah.
I'll book in an appointment.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, 100%.
That's one of the hardest things, but that's so good.
Oh, I'm not, with what I've been through, I'm like not willing to go to like deal with it.
Because you know how hard the fight back is.
Like just deal with it, So I suppose I create safety in that sense, but I think the biggest thing is leaning into and surrendering. I don't have the control that I want.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
And leaning into uncertainty. I also have like a sense of, which I think really helps me, but I have like a sense of faith and trust in the universe.
Yeah.
I'm not like super woo-woo spiritual, but I'm spiritual in the sense of like, I trust the universe.
Yeah.
I know that the universe probably has like has a better plan for me than I could ever think in my head.
Yeah.
Like if I could control it, So I put my faith and trust in that of like things happen for a reason.
Yeah.
And I think, whether that's true or not, the faith in that and the trust in that helps me.
Yeah.
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 And I always think like, I wonder how do people like put surrender and trust into uncertainty without a trust in like
a bigger power.
Yeah, like a higher power or like whatever it is that you're, whether it's religion or spirituality or whatever. I'm like, that massively helps me.
Yeah.
Feel safe and comfortable in the world of like, I'm just this kind of small speck.
Yeah.
There's something, bigger at play.
Yeah, yeah.
That really helps me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say like surrender.
Yeah. Because
ultimately we don't have control really.
No.
We can plan, they say like, what is it about planning? It's like, I don't know, like the plans never go to plan, essentially.
Yeah, I know the saying that you talk about. I can't remember it, but yeah. It's biggest plans, I don't know.
The universe laughs out or something.
Yeah.
It's like you can try and plan, you can try and have everything perfect, but ultimately you don't have that much control.
Yeah.
Everything is uncertain to a degree.
Yeah.
So surrendering to that can actually create a sense of safety, I think. And also like trust in yourself of like, there's this uncertainty, but trusting yourself, okay, I can deal with it. Like if something happens, I can deal with it.
Yeah.
So putting that trust in yourself as well.
Yeah.
Like I can handle uncertainty.
Yeah.
If something fucked up happens, I'll deal with it.
Yeah, yeah. But don't stress about it.
Yeah.
Because it might not ever come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think trust in the universe, but trust in yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how it works for me, I think. Yeah. Yeah. But I think you have moments too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It doesn't. That's like human nature, right?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, we just paused. That was amazing. I was just saying that like so insightful and helpful. I don't have OCD, but there were so many things that you were saying that I know that I do.
Yeah.
And just hearing you talk through the process, I'm already like, wow, I'm going to start doing that.
Oh.
So I love that. Thank you. I always love to finish the episodes. If you could go back in time and talk to little Lilli or someone who's going through the same or a similar situation, what would your advice be? What would you say?
I love the way you phrase that of like, if I could go back in time, I think I would say talk about it.
Yeah.
I think that would be my advice. Like, there's nothing to be ashamed of here.
Yeah.
You're not alone.
Yeah.
Talk about it.
Yeah.
And I think that would probably be my advice to anybody.
Yeah.
You know, if you feel like you're alone in something, especially after working in this field now, I know that nobody is alone in anything.
Yeah.
Like, you are never, ever alone.
Yeah.
But it can feel so isolating when you do feel alone, and it can stop you making the change that is possible.
Yeah.
So honestly, I think that would be my advice. Talk about it.
Yeah.
And say everything that's on your mind.
Yeah.
To someone that you trust.
Yeah.
Really important.
Yeah.
You know, like Brene Brown says, like when shame is met with empathy and understanding, it can't exist.
Yeah.
So talk about it and share it. And you're not alone.
Yeah.
That would definitely be my advice.
That's, like you said, it's so applicable for so many different things because you're not alone.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with me. I loved it. I really loved it.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yes.